Well, folks, on tonight's video, we're going to wade real deep into something that's very controversial, and we've been labeled conspiracy theorists this whole time about this Hurricane Helene. We're going to just throw some stuff out there tonight, folks, and we're going to need them 9-word comments under the video to push this thing further out. And it may get pushed out and then jerked off the airwaves, and they could pull us off after we get through telling what's going to be told. So, y'all folks, just stay tuned. It's going to get deep, and it's going to be a lot of mudslinging going on. So, we just wanted to give you fair warning about what you're getting ready to see after we talk about the big frost. Well, folks, this ain't good. Last night we had a massive frost. They weren't calling for any frost, but we had one. And look at these plants. They're not looking too well. And I'm gonna make a quick trip out to the garden and check it. As you can see, we got a little frost here. Ooh, this ain't good, this ain't good. Look at the white on top of them beds. Down on there. That ain't good. They wasn't calling for nothing like this. And here we go. Let's check the tomatoes. We had a couple of little white spots there, but this dirt still looks dark down through here. That ain't good. I don't know. It looks like it. That just ain't good. Get all this hard work in, and then a rogue frost hits. See it all on the roof line there. Big frost. Well, we'll find out here in a day or two if the frost bit this stuff. It was a pretty hefty frost, folks. You could see earlier the white in the mulch compost. Looking at how green these leaves are on the cucumbers may indicate they got bit and they've not recovered yet with the warm sun. That's not a good sign. That is not a good sign. We'll just have to wait and see. Time will tell. Time will tell. Well, friends, when is it no longer a conspiracy theory? How long is the timeline? Let's put it that way. How long is the timeline requirement before it becomes from conspiracy to reality? How long, folks? How many times are we going to find out that it's just no longer a coincidence? And does the coincidence just happen to match an identifiable timeline? And how many times are we going to continue to allow our people to be lied to? You know, we're talking about Western North Carolina. We're talking about the nanoparticles that are sprayed at high altitude, that was sprayed prior to Hurricane Helene. We're talking about some stuff that people's going to turn their head around, put their head in the sand, or even say we're crazy, and that's the next radar systems that can turn a front and move it or do away with it. Yes, folks, we're talking about another step up that people's been talking very lightly about, and that is the ability to control fronts and the movement of fronts across certain areas. We're talking about massive amounts of information that was known prior to Hurricane Helene. We're talking about the Pentagon securing a $90 million contract that we reported on in Kings Mountain for lithium. And just this week, folks, you know, we've been saying for a long time that our folks in Western North Carolina are getting hamstrung by the government, and it just happens to coincide with, folks, is this a conspiracy theory? You know, they want to take all of our natural resources to prioritize the AI in our AI arms rush against China and make the United States the #1 place for AI. And they don't want China to get ahead of us. And China just happens to be set up, they've set themselves up as a country that can process these minerals. Not only do they have some, but they can also process the world's supply that comes to them to be processed. And it just so happens, folks, another conspiracy theory that has come true, that the Western North Carolina mountains in Appalachia and upstate South Carolina, Southwest Virginia, just happens to be sitting on a massive amount of lithium, which no longer is the conspiracy theory that we've known for years and years that this deposit is there, and that's why the Kings Mountain operation has been in business for many, many years. But is it a coincidence? Is it a conspiracy theory? Or did this just happen to happen? And the fact that the government has had no response to Western North Carolina is just another nail in the fence post that is telling us that they want those people off of the land so they can extract those rare earth minerals for lithium. What's lithium used in? It's used in electric vehicles. It's used in your cell phone. It's used in your car batteries. It's used in trolling motor batteries. It's used in cell phone batteries, laptop batteries. If it's a lithium battery, folks, hearing aids, whatever it may be, it is a requirement for those batteries to have lithium. And they finally admitted this week, folks, that the geotechnical survey has now said there is, at current levels, 328 years worth of lithium in Western North Carolina, upstate South Carolina, and a little touch of southwestern Virginia. So imagine that, folks. We want to create every obstacle and every hurdle possible to move those people out so that the government can get to the lithium deposits. That's why, folks, they did not want to help people when this happened. There was a very slow response. And then when the response came from our military and stuff, they were told to stand down and not fly them Chinooks. Don't allow people to come in, the individuals, to rescue people. They wanted to leave them to die, folks. And that's exactly what they were trying to do. They've not given any food. They have not given any support. And if they came in with Foxtrot Echo Mike Alpha, they offered pennies on the dollar, take it or leave it. And then the next obstacle, folks, was you're now in a new Foxtrot Echo Mike Alpha newly created flood zone, and you will not be able to rebuild. And if you try to rebuild, you'll not be able to get any permitting. And then they had the 8,000 people that have not gotten a bridge to get across their properties. And the prices went from $40,000 to $50,000 a bridge to $500,000 and permitting for $2,500. So it's just been a hurdle after a hurdle after a hurdle. When does it become, folks, not a theory but a fact, and not a conspiracy theory but a truthful fact? How long does that time period have to be from conspiracy to fact? Well, we've known for quite some time of the lithium deposits. We've known for many years that North Carolina was one of the first places for the gold rush, and when those veins stack one on top of each other, you know what's there. So these folks, that's just why, folks, they're living in tents. They're living in squalor. They refuse to leave their generational land because they know what they have. They're not stupid. They know what they have, and the government is trying their best to drive them off of the land. That's why they say, we will not let them build. We're going to create a new flood zone area, and that land will be owned by the county. Well, guess who owns the county's government? That would be the federal government. Then they can turn right around and mine that stuff right out from under the people after they drive them off of their land, after giving them pennies on the dollar. And that's why very few are selling. That's why they're sucking up the mortgage, rolling them into another mortgage, moving up the hill and rebuilding and paying on a home that they can live in and one that washed away. So, folks, there's the facts. There's the truth. We wanted to put it on out there so everybody can get on the same page. There's many people that are not on this page. They don't understand what's going on, so there it is. And we wanted to put it out there all in one video instead of just a scrap here and a scrap there, so that the people with some common sense could put two and two together. They could get the pieces of the puzzle around the outside edge and figure out what was on the rest of the puzzle to see the big picture. Well, now, folks, you've got the big picture. Well, is it conspiracy theory or fact that the offer from the Cackling Hen of $750 went to the people of Western North Carolina, no questions asked, with no roadblocks? Or was it a fact that most could never apply because they had no power, no internet, no other type of communications, and most never got it? Is it a conspiracy theory or a fact that all of the insurance companies got to walk away from Western North Carolina with 40 and 50 years of premiums paid and never forked out a dime for the flooded victims? I'd say that's fact. Is it a conspiracy theory or a fact that the Disaster Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program had over 600,000 people eligible to receive that one-time food allotment of $975, but the period of open enrollment was only for 6 days, while most had no power, no running water, and no communications? Would you call that a conspiracy theory or a fact? That's a fact. When they ushered out the individual bridges and private road program that people could apply to get help for, is it a conspiracy theory or a fact that that the number of bridges needed was around 8,000 in Western North Carolina, but they only had funding for 236? Was that a conspiracy theory or a fact? I'd say that was a fact as well. So then you got to ask yourself, folks, just what has our tax money done for Western North Carolina, other than repave the roads and help clear debris? There's been no humanitarian aid as far as food and water or anything like that been made available. There's been no alternative heating sources. There's been no tents given out or anything like that. So you have to figure out, folks, was all of this that the media was saying was all conspiracy theories, like Foxtrot Echo Mike Alpha seizing supplies, just a way to deter the facts? Leave a comment, folks. I just touched on a very small number of what was portrayed as conspiracy theories by the folks of Western North Carolina to what turned out to be the facts. If you've got one, leave a comment under the video. That way, we can get our memories refreshed on what people was led to believe was a conspiracy theory versus what's turned out to be a fact. Well, folks, I appreciate you watching this evening here on Deep River Farm. I hope everybody has a blessed day. So you see now, folks, why we pretty much have decided that it was a purposeful response from the government not to show up and to help. You know, they don't have these problems when hurricanes hit the coast and places like that. They're not told that you can't rebuild because you're in a new flood zone or you're in a hurricane alley. They're not told that. And think about it. They're not in an area where there's minerals, rich minerals of needed for defense contracts and things like that. So therefore, it's a double standard because they want the land for the lithium and for other rare earth minerals, that quartz, that very fine, pure quartz that's found around the mountains of western North Carolina, that they need to make those chips for those computers and cell phones and cars and everything else that requires a chip. So you see, folks, it is no longer a conspiracy theory, but a known fact. And they continually create droughts and things. That's what's going on now with the spraying and the November Echo X-ray Romeo Alpha Delta system to drive the fronts that are moving across the state of North Carolina away to create dry conditions, which creates an opportunity for severe forest fires. To further drive those that they can't get off of the land and to drive others off of the land that they didn't succeed with in the flood and the hurricane. They're wanting the lithium, folks. They're wanting the lithium. That's just the way it is. That's the fact, and we're going to stand against it. Our people will not leave their land. They will not succeed in the land grab. There will be a fight. I've heard many of them say there will be a fight, one that they do not want to undertake. So, folks, you look back in the very beginning and you look at the body count, which was abnormally low considering the eyewitness accounts of bodies in Lake Lure, bodies to be recovered in upwards of what the total count was just in Lake Lure. Other accounts of bodies being put in refrigerated cars and railroad cars and 18-wheelers, refrigerated trucks. The number of homeless people that have never returned to Asheville. And you find out, folks, that they're all saying that we're all conspiracy theorists. When in fact, folks, that body count is only the number of people that's ever been identified. And we've been saying for a long time, well, what about the people that was in the campgrounds? What about those people? You know, if they didn't have any family and nobody was looking for them, same way with the homeless person, they would never be on a list. And we know there's still people missing. We know that for a fact. And, you know, they're going to still stick with their little lowball number. Is that a conspiracy theory on our part? No, I don't think so. But they want to just go by a number which is only identifiable people. That don't count all the body parts and things that they have found that they've never found the body to. It's just another piece of somebody that's cataloged but not in the count because they don't know who it belongs to. So you see, folks, we're being misled, we're being misdirected, and it's all for one purpose, and that is Alpha Indigo. Do you think it's a conspiracy theory on our part to question the penny and it just be a coincidence that it just happens to be done away with at the time that AI is coming about, and that they need 50 tons of copper for every data center? Is that a conspiracy theory, or is that just common sense? What happens, folks, if they need that nickel for all of this green energy stuff? Does that mean that the next thing they're going to do away is with our nickel? Is this the slow decapitation of the U.S. currency so that they can put us on a digital currency to get better control of you, because they can't control what they want, so they're going to try to take your means out from under you? Is that what is going on, folks? Think about it. What they don't realize, folks, is these people in the mountains are Bible-believing, Bible-toting Christians. And you don't mess with the Lord's army. They will unite. They will back one another. And they will not be driven out. I can assure you that. That is the word from those hollers. And I'm not going to doubt that one bit. These people have endured, since the flood, malnutrition. They've endured cold weather. They've endured no electricity. They've endured no running water. They have had help from the churches. And not just their local churches, but churches from all over. They have also been helped by people from all over the world. And those people have the backing in Western North Carolina of many people that are numberless. Let's just say that. And it's going to be tough for any of them letter agencies to do anything, because once word gets down from the mountains to the hollers and out to the public, it ain't gonna be good. Because I've heard many of them say those very words, that no matter what they try to do, it ain't gonna work in Western North Carolina. They will not leave their land. So folks, I hope this has kind of opened your eyes, especially with the body count, with the number of body bags that was ordered. I know we got a call at Operation Mountain Relief for 2,000 body bags because they couldn't find any more. So that's why I question that little measly count that they've got. Why would you have just a little over 100 in Western North Carolina, yet order just from us 2,000 body bags, and it be an uncalled amount to order if it wasn't based on true numbers? Is that another conspiracy theory, or is it a fact? So folks, you eventually have to start opening your eyes, just like all of these planes flying over with these trails behind them that stay in the air for an hour, maybe two. That's not normal. That's not a conspiracy theory. It's reality. And it's time for a lot of you folks that hadn't stepped up onto the train. You need to get off of the platform, folks, and step onto the train and ride with the rest of us that knows what the destination is and what's going on. That, as Ronald Reagan said, the worst thing you could ever hear was, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Those are the worst words you could ever hear, and that came from one of the best presidents of my time, and that was Mr. President Ronald Reagan. So folks, why would you trust them? They expect you folks to pay every April out of your pocket to fund all of this stuff that they can't tell you where it goes. But they expect you to be able to, they expect you to give them every dollar that they think they owe, that you owe them, but they can't tell you where 1 penny of that goes. So that ain't nothing but just extortion for their benefit. Well, folks, I appreciate you joining me here today on Deep River Farm. This video will probably get censored. Shadow Band may get pulled, and it could make the channel be disappearing because there's too much truth in this. You know, it is what it is. And if it is, folks, you know what happened, and you know it is no longer a conspiracy theory, and that's why we was pulled from the airwaves. Y'all have a blessed day, and until we get to see you again on another video, hopefully at 8 p.m. tomorrow night, we'll see you then, unless it takes a turn for the worst.